The internal Downing Street lockdown party report is finally on the table, and it delivers a scathing verdict. Boris Johnson's fate is now in the hands of his party colleagues. The pardon was followed by a full load of attacks. After a brief apology for dealing with the Partygate affair, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson sought salvation on the offensive. Johnson personally attacked opposition leader Keir Starmer and emphasized his party's alleged successes. The Prime Minister again ruled out resignation on Monday. He asked to wait for the police investigation. An internal investigation report had previously accused those responsible at the British seat of government of serious misconduct in complying with rules at the time of the corona lockdowns and leadership failure. Johnson began his statement with embarrassment. "I would like to say sorry," said the Prime Minister in the London House of Commons. But that is not enough, as many people have made great sacrifices in the pandemic and have followed the rules. The Prime Minister announced far-reaching restructuring and reforms at his official residence. "I understand and I'll fix it," he said. Well, however, the Prime Minister also encountered fierce resistance from within his own ranks. Former government member Andrew Mitchell publicly withdrew his party colleagues' confidence. Johnson had to be asked by his predecessor Theresa May whether he and his employees had not read or understood the corona rules in force at the time, or whether they had thought the rules did not apply to them. And that was a very good one by Theresa May, I must say. During the turbulent session, the opposition repeatedly called for Johnson to resign. The leader of the Scottish National Party, the SNP, Ian Blackford, had repeatedly called Johnson a liar, which is forbidden under the strict rules of Parliament, but I love Blackford for that. Blackford had to leave the room. Later Keir Starmer called on the Tory group to oust Johnson. The Prime Minister's behavior has damaged everyone around him, destroyed trust, and undermined democracy. Despite the sharp allegations, an internal party vote of no confidence in Johnson is now considered unlikely. For that to happen, at least 54 Tory MPs would have to vote against the Prime Minister, and they won't do that right now. In the investigative report, top official Gray accuses those responsible in Downing Street of not having complied with standards that were demanded not only by the government but by the entire population at the time of the corona lockdowns, although it's an absolutely watered down report, by the way. The British Prime Minister, who's under a lot of pressure now, is not directly criticized at any point. Gray emphasized that some of the meetings should not have taken place or should not have unfolded in the way that ultimately happened. The behavior of some of those involved is difficult to justify, as it says. Scotland Yard is also conducting its own investigation into Downing Street gatherings. According to Gray, into 12 of the 16 events investigated. More than 300 photos are said to have been handed over to the police, as an investigator announced on Monday afternoon. The agency had asked Gray to make minimal reference to the police-investigated parties in her report. Therefore, the report is considered to be weakened compared to its original version, to which the official also refers. What she can say about some events is extremely limited and is therefore currently impossible to provide a meaningful summary of all her information. Instead, Gray names specific points that, in her opinion, should change in the British seat of government. Excessive consumption of alcohol is never appropriate in a professional work environment, she wrote. Johnson showed himself to be more and more combative the longer it lasted. "I know what's going on," explained the Prime Minister. Well, the government is delivering and fulfilling its promises. Yes, he still claims that. Brexit has been implemented thanks to the fastest vaccination campaign in Europe. The pandemic is under control. The economy is growing faster than in other countries. No, he's lying, in other G7 countries. We have achieved what people thought was impossible. Well, you covered up what we thought is impossible. Johnson has since convinced many inside party critics to back him. Political decisions that influential Tory MPs had called for also contributed to this. Johnson already lifted all corona rules last week, and despite resistance, he's sticking to a controversial tax increase. According to media reports, however, he gave in to pressure to overturn the mandatory corona vaccination for employees of the National Health Service, the NHS. In the evening, Johnson reportedly wanted to meet MPs from his party, presumably to solicit support. But the fact that he still seriously stands at the dispatch box and uses his alleged successes as a reason for everything is really ridiculous. Yes, he pulled through Brexit, but causing a lot of damage to his country and endangering peace in Northern Ireland. His booster campaign lags behind other countries and is not the world record he's claiming. And that in the Ukraine crisis Great Britain has the leadership of the West is just ridiculous and megalomania. The US is leading negotiations with Russia at the moment. And I no longer comment on his lies about the G7. I'm really fed up of this. That's just bold. By the way, my heartfelt thanks to Ian Blackford again. Finally, someone in Parliament dared to say that the Emperor is really naked. Boris Johnson will now sacrifice some of his staff with Operation Red Meat and with the founding of the Sue Gray report and present himself as a crackdown hero who cracks down to save his own skin. Unfortunately, with all his diversionary tactics, we're really going to have to wait for the police to finish their investigation. It is to be hoped that the rebels will then regain their courage. However, since the watered-down report was further watered down in Parliament on Monday, also by the government bench and members of the Parliament themselves, I will go through the short version now, Sue Gray report with you in my video at 12 p.m. CET today. Sometimes it is necessary to do this completely so that facts are known and not everyone can be lied to. So I'll see you at 12. Bis gleich.